Hey there, it's Zach, and feel free to argue. How y'all doing today? Thought it was about time for me to post my responses to the good old tag game. Since I was lying to you a little while ago, there's a lot of difference of opinion about what the lie is. Well, y'all are going to find out. Actually, the lie was the first thing, the parachute incident. I'm probably never actually going to go parachuting, skydiving, for a couple of reasons, actually. And both of them actually are tied to things that happened in high school with me, actually. There was a guy who was a local writer in Dayton, Ohio, where I grew up, a guy named D.L. Stewart. And he was just kind of a local feature writer, had a sense of humor, did a lot of crazy things. And he came to talk once to my high school paper, which I was the editor-in-chief of. And did a nice little talk, about his job and all the stuff that he did, and talked about some of the crazy things he'd done. He even wrestled an alligator and stuff like that. So he didn't mind doing crazy stuff. But one thing he said that he was absolutely never going to do was skydive. And of course, somebody asked him, well, why skydive? You wrestle an alligator, why not skydive? And he said, it was very simple. The way he put it is the way that I always think about it. He said, yeah, there's a good chance nothing can happen. It'd be a fun experience and everything. But you know what? I've just heard too many times about somebody with 249 successful dives. It's now 249 for 250. And I think that was a really good kind of way of getting across to people the whole notion of downside risk. It certainly made an impression on me. It's like, oh, that's right. You only have to miss once, don't you? And that was kind of further brought home to me by an incident that my father witnessed. Because my father used to go with a friend of his and golf at this place. It was kind of way out in the country near Dayton. Really, really out in the sticks. And one of the things that was near the place where they golfed was one of these places where you could do the one-day skydiving course. They would walk you through the whole process and, train you about skydiving. At the end of your little training session, you actually get to go and do a jump. And he and his friend were out there golfing, one Saturday or Sunday morning. It's always on the weekend. And they saw this guy plummeting, flailing away, no parachute coming out. And he landed without that parachute ever coming out. And my dad described this to me, as a teenager in high school. And I have to admit, it made quite an impression on me, Think about it, too, this way. You don't see people die very often. It's something that our culture is very good at hiding away. We've got this whole industry now, which is basically designed to hide death from people. And it's being treated as a very kind of unnatural aspect of our existence. But death by skydiving and the parachute not opening, that was probably more real to me than it was for most kids. The second thing, the being jumped and shot up part. All I can say about that, and I don't want to get too much into that situation, because there's a lot of stuff that I'd rather not tell you about that kind of informs that experience. But let me just say this. If you're going to enter a fight on behalf of someone who is a friend, but you don't know that well, and if you are in a different situation that you're used to, take, for example, you grew up in this sheltered Midwestern existence where nothing bad ever really could even happen to you, and you suddenly find yourself in a punk bar in San Francisco, perhaps you should think about entering a fight on behalf of someone who you believe to be a friend. And you should probably wonder about whether or not your friend is in fact right. And certainly, you should not enter any fight until you know whether the people you're dealing with are truly dangerous or not. Certainly, you should be aware of whether or not you are actually insulting the girlfriend of someone who is a gang member and an enforcer for the gang. So honestly, I should be dead. I should be dead. It was one of those mistakes that you shouldn't be able to get away from. And I still don't know why, I was why that happened and I wasn't just killed. I mean, as someone pointed out, it was a waste of resources. Certainly it would probably have been cheaper to kill me than shoot me up with heroin. I don't know. I guess in a weird way, I guess I'm just lucky. And I do feel lucky. I'm not being glib about it. I was stupid and I deserved to die. And I got lucky. And the last thing, my first wife was a teacher, and even though she was jointly responsible for my grade, she recused herself from the whole grading process. So nothing really bad, I guess, went on. But that was an interesting experience to be married to someone significantly older than myself. And I don't know, I still think she's a really neat lady. I actually attended her marriage, to the guy who basically kind of broke up our relationship. That was my experience. And thanks for everybody for responding. Actually, I thought this was kind of fun. I know a couple of people didn't like it. Only one provoked decided not to do it, but he came up with something much better, I think, in alternatively. So I really enjoyed his as well. Not just because I was a benefactor of it either. One more thing I just kind of wanted to add as a comment at the end, since I got a couple of minutes left. I got to use my whole 10 minutes. One thing I've found really curious about the whole bailout and people's reaction to it is I think it's funny. Because on one level, people who are viewed as being the source of the problem, the people who defaulted on home mortgages, are receiving a lot of criticism for being irresponsible and spending beyond their means. It's like, okay, that's a kind of a plausible idea. I'm not totally on board with it. I think there are a lot of other things involved, but it's an argument to be made. But in light of that, and how many people are saying that, don't you find it interesting that no one ever talks about how the American public, their reduced spending, they never talk about it as being a responsible reaction to their financial situation. It's always portrayed as being this crisis of consumer confidence, and what can we do to get people to start spending, taking on debt again, and certainly we have to clear the past so that the banks feel free to lend money to people again. Isn't it curious that at the same time that they're calling people irresponsible for spending beyond their means and taking more debt than they can handle, when people actually reduce their spending and stop buying shit they don't need, that all of a sudden it's a crisis of consumer confidence. And no one ever says that it's just people realizing that, hey, maybe I was spending too much and maybe I should spend a bit less. Anyway, this is Zach. Thanks everybody for watching, and as always, you can feel free to argue.